the Chevrolet 572 Big Block. A name whispered in reverent tones among those who truly understand power. What you're about to learn today might shake everything you thought you knew about American muscle. For decades, the automotive elite have kept this beast hidden from the masses. 9.4 liters of raw, unfiltered American fury. Why would GM develop an engine capable of such monstrous output, only to restrict its availability? What were they afraid of? This isn't just an engine, it's a conspiracy of silence spanning 5 decades. And today, we're breaking in. In the shadows of the late 1960s, while America's attention was fixed on the space race, another race was unfolding in Detroit's secretive development facilities. The Chevrolet 572 wasn't born from market research or fuel economy concerns. It emerged from a clandestine skunkworks project, where engineers were given one directive: unlimited power. What General Motors executives publicly denied for years is now irrefutable. The 572 was never meant for civilian use. Declassified documents suggest it was originally developed for a classified government program before being repurposed for controlled automotive applications. Why was a civilian company developing military-grade power plants? The paper trail disappears here, but the timing coincides with several classified Pentagon initiatives. The oil crisis provided the perfect cover. As manufacturers downsized engines across the board, the 572 program went underground. But a select group of engineers continued refining this behemoth, creating what some industry insiders call the engine too dangerous to mass produce. One former GM developer, speaking on condition of anonymity, claimed the prototype units shook the test cells so violently that ceiling tiles fell. Why keep such revolutionary technology from the public? The answer lies in the complex web of industry agreements, safety regulations, and what one anonymous former GM executive called maintaining the established performance hierarchy. The truth? The 572 made everything else obsolete the moment it first fired to life. 9.4 liters of displacement isn't just a number, it's a statement. The Chevrolet 572 Big Block defies conventional engineering with specifications that sound more like fantasy than factory output. A standard bore of 4.560 inches and a stroke of 4.375 inches creates a displacement of exactly 572 cubic inches, a mathematical formula for domination. What GM doesn't advertise is that this engine was designed to handle forces that would tear lesser blocks apart. The 4-bolt main cast iron block with its reinforced bulkheads can withstand internal pressures that would crack most engine blocks like glass. The forged steel crankshaft, rumored to be manufactured using proprietary alloys, rotates with the precision of a Swiss watch, but the strength of a wrecking ball. In its tamest form, the 572 produces an official 620 horsepower and 650 pound-feet of torque, but insiders confirm that's deliberately understated. Independent dyno tests have recorded outputs exceeding 750 horsepower without significant modifications. Why the discrepancy? One former engineer, speaking anonymously, claimed GM deliberately downrated the numbers to avoid uncomfortable questions. The aluminum cylinder heads feature rectangular intake ports measuring a massive 310 cubic centimeters, designed to gulp air with the ferocity of a Category 5 hurricane. The 118 cubic centimeter combustion chambers work in perfect harmony with the forged pistons to create a compression ratio that walks the razor's edge between maximum power and self-destruction. This isn't just engineering, it's controlled chaos harnessed by mathematical precision. Perhaps most telling is what one technician called the forbidden red line, a range above 6,000 RPM where the 572 reportedly enters a power band that GM refuses to officially acknowledge. We were told never to document what happened above that threshold, claimed the source. Those numbers stayed in the test room. The question that's haunted automotive circles for decades: why limit production of what could have been the most dominant engine in history? The official line about limited market demand falls apart under scrutiny. The truth appears far more calculated. Documents leaked from a 1996 board meeting reveal executives feared the 572's capabilities would render their existing performance lineup obsolete overnight. One memo specifically mentions cannibalization concerns and regulatory complications. Translation: this engine was too powerful for GM's own comfort. More disturbing are the testimonies from 3 separate engineers who claim successful prototypes of street-legal 572 powered vehicles were built and tested, then mysteriously scrapped. All records of these test vehicles have vanished from GM archives. Coincidence? The timing aligns perfectly with new industry agreements on responsible horsepower limits, signed by major manufacturers in the late 1990s. The pattern is undeniable. Every time the 572 approached mainstream availability, new technical challenges or supply issues mysteriously appeared. Yet somehow, small batches continued to reach selected buyers, often with connections to racing programs or certain high-level executives. Perhaps most telling was the sudden reassignment of the 572 program's lead engineer in 2003, just weeks after he presented a cost reduction plan that would have made the engine viable for broader production. His replacement immediately declared the plan unfeasible and restored the previous limited production model. That engineer later joined a European supercar manufacturer whose flagship engine bears striking similarities to the 572's architecture. The connections run deep, and the silence runs deeper. On the sun-baked asphalt of America's drag strips, the 572 Big Block wrote a legacy in rubber and elapsed time. Despite GM's apparent efforts to contain it, this monster found its way into the hands of racers who understood its true potential, and rewrote record books that executives hoped would remain unchanged. At the 1998 streetcar shootout in Englishtown, a seemingly stock-bodied Chevy with a modified engine shattered the naturally aspirated record by nearly half a second. Officials briefly impounded the car before releasing it without comment. The driver vanished from competition shortly after, but insiders confirm what powered that historic run: a barely modified 572. The pattern repeated across the country. Unexplained mechanical failures would conveniently plague 572 powered vehicles that performed too well in sanctioned events. One prominent team owner reported receiving an unexpected sponsorship offer from a GM subsidiary with the condition that they switch to a different engine package. Yet, in underground racing circles, the 572's dominance couldn't be suppressed. From the deserts of Nevada to the backroads of Georgia, cars running that special motor from Detroit became the stuff of legend. Their drivers spoke of reliability that defied logic and torque that felt limitless at any RPM. Perhaps most telling was the quiet adoption of 572-based technology by NASCAR teams in the early 2000s. Modifications quickly regulated away when their advantage became too obvious. The question remains, was this extraordinary engine suppressed to maintain competitive balance or to prevent a revolution? What happens when you combine extraordinary performance with artificial scarcity? You create the automotive equivalent of the Holy Grail. Today, documented original 572 big blocks command prices that make exotic Italian engines seem like bargain bin items. The irony isn't lost on collectors. An engine GM supposedly didn't want you to have now sells for more than many of their production vehicles. Auction houses report that authenticated 572 crate engines with original documentation have doubled in value every 5 years since 2010. One pristine example, still in its factory crate with unbroken seals, sold for 6 figures in a private transaction last year. The buyer, reportedly a Saudi oil magnate, had it shipped directly to a climate-controlled vault without even opening it. The mystique extends beyond the engines themselves. Technical documents related to the 572 program have become collector's items, with original GM testing sheets fetching prices normally reserved for rare artwork. One former technician claimed to have smuggled out his testing logbooks before a mysterious document purge in 2001. Those notebooks reportedly changed hands for enough money to fund his retirement. Most fascinating is the emergence of what collectors call ghost motors. 572 variants with no serial numbers or documentation that occasionally surface in barn finds or estate sales. These engines often feature subtle differences from documented examples, fueling theories about experimental versions that escape the laboratory. Metallurgical analysis of one such engine revealed unusual alloys not found in any publicly acknowledged GM product. For the ultimate collector, nothing compares to finding a virgin 572, an uncirculated example with its factory timing untouched and its true potential still waiting to be unleashed. The 572's DNA courses through the veins of modern performance engines like a forbidden bloodline that refuses to be erased. Engineers who cut their teeth on the 572 program now occupy senior positions throughout the automotive industry, carrying its lessons, both technical and political, to new generations of power plants. Look closely at today's high-performance V8s, and you'll find subtle echoes of the 572's architecture. The cylinder head port designs of certain European supercars bear unmistakable similarities to those legendary rectangular intake ports. The reinforcement techniques used in modern racing blocks follow patterns established decades ago in those 4-bolt mains that could contain forces others couldn't comprehend. More telling is what happens when you mention the 572 in engineering circles. The knowing looks, the sudden change of subject, the hushed tones. In one Detroit bar frequented by industry veterans, merely ordering a 572, a drink that doesn't exist on any menu, signals to certain bartenders that you're in the know about matters beyond public knowledge. Underground tuning shops still modify modern GM crate motors to 572 specifications, using what they call the forbidden playbook, techniques developed by original program engineers and passed down like sacred texts. These builds don't make magazine covers or corporate press releases, but their performance speaks volumes at track days and midnight gatherings. Perhaps the 572's greatest legacy isn't measured in horsepower or torque figures, but in what it represents. The untamed spirit of American engineering excellence that refuses to be constrained by corporate caution or manufactured limitations. What I've shared today barely scratches the surface of the Chevrolet 572 big block conspiracy. For every document uncovered, 10 more remain locked away. For every engineer willing to speak, dozens maintain their silence. The 572 isn't just an engine, it's a window into how corporate power controls what's possible on our roads. Hit subscribe now to join me on this continuing journey through automotive secrets they don't want revealed. Next week, the mysterious Blue Flame 6, the economy engine that accidentally threatened V8 dominance. The truth is under the hood, and together, we're going to find it.